In the sweltering heat of summer in Willow Creek, a quiet American town famed for its sprawling backyards and still nights, the Miller family was ready to start a new chapter. Having just moved from Boston, Mark and Lisa, parents to two curious children, had chosen the old house on Maple Street in hopes of finding peace and a deeper bond with nature. The creaky doors and antique glass windows of the big sunlit house seemed perfect for shaping memories anew, or so they believed. Ethan and Sophie, eager and adventurous, explored every hallway and hidden corner with excitement, yet something lingered in the air, perhaps the way the night silence deepened until it became almost unsettling, a quiet that seemed to hold its breath. Subscribe and come uncover more mysteries with us. While Willow Creek's nights unfolded in predictable calm, the children's curiosity turned everyday moments into tiny expeditions, into the garden, up to the dusty attic. By midnight, the house cocooned them in a solitude that was nearly palpable. 13-year-old Ethan felt a chill with every hour that passed after dark, while 9-year-old Sophie convinced herself that her jittery nerves were just tricks of an overactive imagination. Their parents tried to soothe them, chalking it all up to the moving blues, but something about their new home kept the kids' senses on high alert, as if whispering that not everything was as it seemed. That particular night, just as the mantel clock struck 12:34 a.m., the Miller family's routine was pierced by a strange and fleeting event. Ethan bolted awake, convinced a cold whisper had called his name. Sophie, wide-eyed in her bed, noticed an eerie glow slipping through the crack under her bedroom door, turning her safe space unfamiliar. The siblings, silently alert, sensed together that they were witnesses to something that defied explanation. In the shadowy hush of that hour, they would share a secret that no one was ever meant to know, especially not inside that house. It would become a moment that shaped not just that summer, but the way they saw every mystery from then on. Ever since the Millers arrived in Willow Creek, a town wrapped in thick forests and gravel roads, everything hinted at a fresh beginning. Mark longed for a quieter life after years as a store manager in Boston, while Lisa, now a teacher at the local school, dreamed of growing closer to her children. Ethan, endlessly curious, had already mapped out every nook and cranny of that massive house in his mind. Sophie, thrilled by the idea of her very own garden, was determined to plant sunflowers before summer's end. Each family member felt the usual cocktail of anxiety and hope that comes with moving, the optimism that finds meaning in the smallest things and fuels belief in brighter days. Subscribe and come uncover more mysteries with us. The first weeks were a blur of unpacked boxes, shifting furniture, and meeting neighbors who brought homemade pies and tales about the area's history. The old house on Maple Street, sheltered by ancient trees and boasting a broad porch with sunset views, proved ripe with new smells, creaks, and cozy sounds. Ethan and Sophie quickly established their own spaces, a makeshift blanket fort in the attic and a trail of stones leading through the backyard. As the Miller family settled into routines, their laughter and chatter filled once empty rooms, even if the occasional creak or chilly draft on the stairs sometimes gave them pause and left a subtle unease, soon buried under stories and busy days. Everything changed one evening after a long day spent organizing the house. Lisa wished her children good night and retreated upstairs with Mark, both exhausted. Downstairs, the old pendulum clock, a gift from the previous owners, struck 11:50 p.m., and the lights flickered just as Ethan was reading comics under his blanket. Suddenly, a strange unease twisted in his stomach, as if he could feel something shifting in the air. In her room, Sophie stared at the shifting shadows on the wall, unable to fall asleep. Neither knew it yet, but both were waiting, restless, expectant, for something to call out from the quiet, something that would change not just that night, but the very way they saw their home. Subscribe and come uncover more mysteries with us. The silence was near absolute when Ethan jolted awake, convinced he'd heard footsteps in the hallway. He sat upright, senses sharpened by the darkness swallowing his room. The green numbers of the bedside clock glowed, 12:34 a.m. At that same moment, in the next room, Sophie watched as a pale glow crept beneath her door, like an invisible flashlight probing for secret. Her heart raced, and her first instinct instinct was to burrow under her pillow, trying to decide if what she felt was a dream or startling reality. A cold shiver worked its way down her spine. The warmth suddenly drained from her room for just an instant. Suppressing his fear, Ethan tiptoed to his bedroom door and cracked it open. The hallway lay before him, bathed in a soft amber light that seemed to flicker without a visible source. For a split second, he saw a shadow move at the far end, fleeting, almost gossamer. Sophie, overcoming the urge to hide, was equally drawn by the strange glow. Meeting in the hallway, the siblings shared wide-eyed looks and trembling hands, each seeking reassurance. Their minds frantically tried to explain the impossible, but deep down, both understood they were witnessing something far outside the ordinary. An icy tension formed around them. Sophie whispered about running to their parents' room, but Ethan insisted they needed to understand what was happening first. Caught between the safety of retreat and the temptation of discovery, the siblings hesitated. The silence in the house seemed heavier as they stared at the flickering light, which now pulsed as if signaling a secret. They exchanged anxious glances, each searching the other's face for the courage to act. Should they scream for help or take another step forward? In that moment, Ethan and Sophie realized they were keepers of a secret no one would believe, even if they dared to share it. The next morning, a heavy tension clung to the air like a lingering mist. Neither Ethan nor Sophie had slept much after the shock of the night before. Their tired, distant expressions betrayed the turmoil inside. At breakfast, Lisa, noticing her children's unease, tried to coax an explanation from them, but both hesitated, unsure how to describe something so far beyond logical explanation. Mark, always the rational one, suggested it was nothing more than a shared nightmare, the kind children often have during times of change. Still, a subtle suspicion remained in their parents' eyes, especially when Ethan mentioned the exact time, 12:34 a.m. Out of curiosity, Lisa shared the odd story with neighbors during a stroll, hoping to find comfort or at least distraction. That's when the first clue emerged that the house held secrets older than they'd imagined. Mrs. Watson, a long-time neighbor, revealed the Miller house was shrouded in old rumors, strange occurrences, always striking at the same hour, like an unseen clock that governed these inexplicable manifestations. Lisa listened with skepticism, yet a growing unease took hold of her thoughts. When she told Mark and the kids what she'd heard, the atmosphere at home thickened. Silences now carried an urgent subtext. It felt as if the mystery demanded more than rational answers. It begged for courage to face the unknown. Driven by curiosity and the unique sort of bravery siblings share, Ethan and Sophie made up their minds. They would launch their own investigation. Armed with flashlights and an old tape recorder found in the attic, they laid plans to get to the bottom of the phenomenon. That night, they whispered strategies and agreed on secret signals, retracing every detail of the illuminated hallway. Fear no longer pushed them back. Now it was the thrill of possibility that drew them forward. More than just seeking answers, the siblings sensed they were about to discover something deep within themselves, a quiet strength that only surfaces when faced with the unknown and when you choose to face it together. The following night arrived laden with anticipation. Ethan and Sophie prepared themselves like true investigators, while the rest of the house slipped into stillness. When the clock ticked 12:34 a.m. and the two stood ready in the hallway, flashlights in hand, recorder on, hearts pounding, almost immediately that same amber glow returned, dancing along the walls in a silent show. But this time, instead of shrinking from the strange phenomenon, the siblings observed it closely, recording every detail. Fear melted into fascination as they realized the light didn't threaten. It weaved mysterious patterns, forming shapes much like forgotten childhood drawings. As minutes passed, the source of the light was unveiled. Old stained glass windows in the attic reflected the street lamps outside, crafting ghostly illusions down the hallway. Relieved and proud of their newfound bravery, the siblings discovered the phenomenon only appeared during nights with the perfect mix of wind, passing clouds, and artificial light. They brought their findings to their parents, who listened in awe and surprise. Together, the family came to understand that many fears grow in the absence of knowledge and only disappear when faced head-on. The experience brought a different kind of warmth into the Miller household. Ethan grew even bolder. Sophie found confidence wherever once there was doubt. Mark and Lisa, for their part, cherished the unity and maturity their children gained through the mystery. Life went on quietly in Willow Creek, but in the yellow house on Maple Street, they took pride in having transformed fear into discovery and and strengthened the bonds no phantom glow could ever unravel. For them, the memory became a symbol of curiosity and courage, inspiring anyone who heard their tale to look at the unknown as a starting line for growth and wonder. The miller's story in Willow Creek went far beyond the passing days of an ordinary summer. It became a turning point for family unity and courage. The once mysterious house transformed into a home defined by bravery, curiosity, and trust, qualities strengthened through those nights that had seemed so daunting. Around the dinner table, with laughter, stories, and sun-dappled afternoons, the family realized that true mysteries are solved with shared confidence and a willingness to look beneath the surface. Ethan and Sophie, now closer than ever, carried that episode with them as a treasured secret, always sharing a knowing smile whenever another strange sound crept through the house. Lisa, watching her children, marveled at how much they had grown, not just in courage, but in empathy and their understanding of the world around them. Mark, too, discovered that not every answer lies in logic or routine, but often in the challenge of facing the unexpected together. Each evening, as the sunset poured over the porch, the Millers celebrated not only the calm that had drawn them to their new town, but the certainty that, as a family, they could weather even the most mysterious nights. Soon the old rumors about the yellow house on Maple Street faded, replaced by tales of discovery and courage. Their story became a gentle reminder to neighbors and friends about the power of facing challenges side by side. Inspired by Ethan and Sophie's curiosity, other children saw that great adventures often begin on silent nights and end by forging lifelong bonds. So, in that house bathed in soft light from its vintage windows, the Miller family kept building memories, always guided by hope and the faith that the unknown is, above all, an invitation to grow and reinvent themselves.